Well, welcome everyone to the People Strategy Forum podcast. We're a show that guides leaders on how to elevate the workforce, and we believe that people are at the heart of successful organizations. A team member's well-being, their rewards, career development are all essential to a happy and healthy workforce in a productive environment overall. So this show discusses the practical and effective leadership strategies for top executives, senior professionals, and talent managers. So first, I would like to introduce our panel today. We have with us today, we have Howard Niswitz. He's a seasoned compensation advisor and strategic HR consultant with over 30 years of experience. And also we have Sumit Singla, is an experienced HR consultant dedicated to helping small and medium-sized enterprises scale up globally with cutting edge practices and solutions. So Sumit is what we also known as a culture guy. He gives a lot of advice online overall. So today on the People Strategy Forum, we explore the dynamics of creating an agile startup. And we have the privilege of hosting Alex Wardlaw, a distinguished leader and mentor, trainer, and advisor from Venture HR. With more than 2 decades of experience in strategic outsourcing, Alex has earned the recognition as an 11-time President Club winner and has profoundly impacted the profitability of hundreds of small to medium-sized companies by streamlining their operations. So his approach to reducing labor costs, ensuring compliance, and providing competitive benefits has allowed countless companies to punch above their weight class and ensuring that they can compete with larger employers overall. So join us as we dive into the essentials of building an agile startup here with Alex Wardlaw. Welcome, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Appreciate it.
So what we'd like to do here, Alex, to kind of kick things off is just understand a little bit more about how you got into the business of helping companies, really develop and so that they can focus mostly on what they do best, and the other regulatory pieces and payroll and administration can be handled by your organization. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to grad school at the University of Florida, and one of my colleagues was being put through the program with a company called Staff Leasing at the time, which is now TriNet. But to make a long story short, he recruited about 5 of us right out of school. So started working for them in Atlanta in sales, then went to their corporate market place in Florida, and then was a marketing manager, and then moved out to Colorado to open up their Colorado Springs branch. And from there, worked for several others, ADP, TriNet, Co-Advantage, to name a few. And that's how I got into the industry.
So what really made the choice of moving from some of those large players to where you're at now?
Yeah, I think it was more flexibility. More flexibility, from a service standpoint. We've got boots on the street throughout the United States, and we have a single point of contact to help our clients. So I think that's what really made me make a switch.
Great. Well, one of the things I'd really like to dive in today here, Alex, is a lot of small businesses out there, a lot of founders of companies are not aware of the different avenues that they have for partners like you that help them grow. So I guess if we go back into what a lot of small business face, and I can talk to this because I've experienced this myself in growing my organization. But as we start, of course, we have our expertise, the solution that we're providing our clients and our customers on what we do best, and this is something that we're passionate about, and as any founder out there. But then as you start growing and providing these services to your customers, you need more people. You need to hire some people from time to time. And then it comes into some of the regulatory burden. Okay, well, how do I pay these individuals? How do I comply with all the regulatory responsibilities in multiple places where I do business. How do I make sure I'm effective in hiring people? So there's this administration that needs to be brought on. And so suddenly that service provider is focusing a good portion of their time just operating and running the business instead of really focusing on their clients. And so this can be a big business strain, starting out. And so comes into the solution providers that you have. And can you tell us a little bit, Alex, on how you help organizations grow and get above this hurdle? What are the different options there?
Yeah, so from our end, we have several different options, but one solution that I know we mentioned is the PEO, which is Professional Employer Organization. And so typically PEOs work with groups from startup to usually roughly around 100 employees. And what we see is as they're growing, the last person they hire usually is an HR manager, right? So as they get to that 15 to 20 employee level, it's usually the owner, the officer, the CFO or controller handling all those HR functions, and they really don't know anything about the compliance piece. So the next step for them is they have to decide, do I hire an HR manager for 60 to 100,000 all in, or do I outsource that solution to a third party? And so that's where we come in. We're that outsourced solution where we can offer a one-stop shop where the owner gets, it's like I tell people, it's like they're hiring 5 people. So they're going to get a payroll specialist, an HR specialist, benefit specialist, a risk and safety manager, and then they're going to get an account manager that really holds their hand with the whole solution. At the same time, they're getting an HRIS system to streamline those operations for them. So rather than them at a startup, rather than them go out and look for a payroll company, they've got to get workers' comp in place, they've got to get benefits in place, they've got to get retirement in place. What's nice with our program is it's all there for them. So it's you hire us and then we handle all of that administration from their side. So from an HR compliance piece, we make sure they stay in compliance with whatever states they're in. If they're multi-states, every state's a different compliance feature that we can assist with.
And so and I know that there's companies that try to go out there and do this on their own. What are some of the downsides? I mean, you mentioned some such as compliance and just the know-how of doing this, but are there other downsides that they may experience from just being a small organization and competing with yeah, or just trying to do business in this larger context?
Yeah, a couple downsides are one is all the liability is on that employer and that owner. So if they're doing it themselves, they burden 100% of the liability piece. If they work with a PEO, you share liabilities. So we're on the hook for a lot of those liabilities, including payroll taxes, unemployment, workers' comp administration, benefits administration. We're the go between the IRS, the Department of Labor, the EEOC, all those governing bodies. We want to take that off of the owner's plate so they don't have to deal with any of those things. And so from a shared liability sense, it makes sense because they've got somebody helping them regulate all of those. So if something comes up, they can rely on that PEO for assistance in those areas. And then the other thing from that end is with a PEO, we're employer of record for IRS purposes. So those are actually our liabilities that we shoulder. And then the employer is the on-site employer. So that means they hire, fire, make all the company decisions from that end. But like I said, it's a co-employment relationship, and that's where the liabilities come in.
So what about benefits here in the United States? I mean, benefits can be a very big challenge for smaller organizations. They don't have a lot of and they may not feel like they have a lot of options. So how does a PEO help them with the benefit side of things?
Yeah, so in the United States, in most states, usually if you're under 100 employee groups, you're considered small group marketplace. And so the small group marketplace, right? It's based on your census of what plans and rates you get. Whereas when you come with a PEO, look at it like a co-op. So we group all of these small businesses together. So we have a large pool that we shop with our carriers with, and then you're able to get large group benefits. So typically what that means is more choices, lower premiums, and richer plans for our clients.
So better choices overall for their people when they group with other
Correct. And
organizations.
yeah, and the other nice thing is they don't have to administer any of it. So
Okay,
they
nice.
can offer it. Employees come to us with questions. They completely let us run with it.
Well,
Okay, so
Alex, I have a question on that. What about customization? Let's say for some reason they want to provide something that's in terms of benefits that's not considered normal, like they want to cover pets or something strange. Do you have that flexibility?
Yeah, absolutely. So Howard, from that end, a lot of PEOs have additional perks for their clients. Pet insurance is one
Hmm.
of the perks that they have. They have identity theft, they have employee assistance programs, they have discount programs from shopping. So to answer your question, absolutely, you can customize. Some clients want to keep certain benefits that they have. So for instance, they love their dental plan.
Right.
So some PEOs will allow that, some won't. From our side, we're completely flexible and we'll be able to work with them on setting that up.
Right.
so I mean, sometimes when you're thinking about, I mean, benefits, I mean, the first thing that pops up in a lot of CFOs' mind is like, oh, this is expensive, right? They have, paying for the benefits and adding all these other ancillary programs there that their employees really want and can add up. And so is a PEO like and when we're thinking about the costs overall, I mean, what are the trade-offs? I mean, can this be done in a different environment? What are the options for either go on their own, or they can do a PEO? Is there any other options that a small employer can do to deliver good benefits to their people?
Yeah, and so what we find from the CFO standpoint, right, is if they have it on their own, right, and you mentioned it's pretty expensive, renewals go up 10-20% every year. They have to scale down on the benefits. So when I say scale down, they have to take a deductible from $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000, and we've seen that over the last 10 years. Of it used to be HMO plan, zero deductible covered everything, right? And over the last 10-15 years, now a standard plan for a small employer is $1,000 to $2,000 deductible plan. And so, Sam, going back to your point, there are some choices, right? So from our side, once again, because and I'm just speaking for Colorado, but most carriers require you at least contribute 50% of the lowest cost health plan. So what's nice of moving to a PEO is we have over 25 different plans where that employer can choose from. So anywhere from zero deductible plans to $7,500 deductible plans. So what's nice is they can choose a few plans, and if they have to go that higher deductible route, they only have to pay 50% of that plan versus $1,000 plan from that end.
So that really helps with affordability, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it gives them choices and they can really restructure their benefit package, because a lot of, other than health, a lot of the other services can be employee paid.
Mm,
So the only requirement we have is 50% of the lowest cost health plan for the
okay.
employer.
So perhaps if we can just dig in more to give our listeners more of an understanding of what the experience is like. So let me just go back to that story I was talking about at the beginning of our discussion. So a company is out there, they're providing services, they want to grow and expand, they bring on employees. Now they have the burden of payroll, regulation, and so forth. So, and they find an organization like Venture HR that can help them to provide some of these services. Now, the next thing, it just sounds like a daunting task is so as a small employer, I mean, I have zero policies in place. I have zero know-how on how to go through this, even starting with benefits and so forth. So how does a company or a PEO or a company like Venture HR help guide or onboard a client that has never done this before? What is the step? What are the steps there?
Yeah, so how we help is when we're bringing them on, first of all, we have an implementation team that we hold their hand through that process to get them going for the first couple payroll runs. But during that time, they get to meet their full service team, which includes that HR specialist, that benefits specialist. And then during that time, from an HR standpoint, we help with handbooks, job descriptions, salary surveys, training programs, performance reviews, everything that large companies have an HR department for. That's where we come in and help that small employer from that front. Yeah, and then during the benefit enrollment, what's nice is they can rethink what their benefit strategy is going to be, right? Because maybe they've been doing the same thing for the last 10 years and they don't really know why. So this really gives them an opportunity to restructure that and do what's best for them moving forward.
Okay. And so you help them put together these plans and by priority, and then also put in the policies so that they can do this effectively, and also that you as an organization can ensure that they're compliant with all the regulations and so forth.
Correct. Yeah. And if they have already a handbook in place, we'll review that handbook. We can make updates to it if need be. So really what happens is once they're in and run the first couple payrolls, our HR person's going to sit down with them and come up with an action plan, right? Do they want to offer trainings to their employees? Some states require it. For instance, California, you have to do sexual harassment training. So whatever states require it, we'll make sure that we implement that and get it done. For the other states, they can decide, okay, would like to have trainings for my employees, because a lot of small employers don't have time to put that in place. Once they come on with us, they're already there. So we're talking sexual harassment, diversity awareness, management training courses, time management, stress management, legal assistance, hiring practices, interview questions you can ask. So you name it, a full gamut that becomes available to that small employer.
And then part of the solutions that you provide as an organization, Venture HR, is that you have some technology that can help them manage their people. Is that part of the a traditional offering?
Correct. Yeah. So we have our technology platforms called Prism HR, and then we own Prism. With that being said, 70% of PEOs utilize the Prism platform. And so what's nice for a small employer is the other challenge is as they're putting these pieces in place, they're putting their payroll in place, their workers' comp in place, their benefits in place. There may be their time and attendance system, their applicant tracking system. These, we call them silos, but they don't talk to one another if you're on your own. And so what happens is the owner has to hire people to manage those different areas of their practices. And that can become expensive. So what's nice when they come on to us, they're automatically put into our Prism system. And then we really streamline that operation because they can onboard people paperless. And then as soon as they term somebody, it comes off all of those services. So it comes off the payroll, comes off the workers' comp, comes off the health invoice, the dental, everything is pulled out in one click of a button rather than going back and having to take those out yourself.
Nice. And so the Prism system is a human resource management system. It just,
Correct.
that's where you would keep all your employee information and records and so forth.
Yeah. And so that's where the data is kept. So it's available to the employer and his team 24/7. So what's nice, they can go online and get whatever reports they want. There's over 150 standard reports that they can pull. And then the employees will have a self-service portal where they can go in and review their information. so they can review their paychecks, they can check their PTO, they can review their benefit elections, and then they can house some employee documents there as well.
Okay. Well, I know that the next thing, and we're talking about, small companies scaling up, and becoming more agile so they can focus on what they do best. And part of that is hiring more people. And as you just mentioned, Alex, I mean, if somebody, if the company decides that they want to hire somebody in a different state across the United States, then you're going to help them on board, make sure that they're compliant in that state and so forth. But what about if we're hiring a person in a different country? I know that right now when we're talking about looking at different resources, the talent across the globe. There's a rich talent place out there. I mean, as an example, I mean, we have Sumit Singla here with us right now from India, and he's a top HR consultant in India. And so companies nowadays can reach out across the globe and find the best talent wherever it may be. So how does a PEO or venture HR help with something like that?
Yeah, so we have a couple ways to help recruit talent, and one of them, it's called Solvo Global is the name of the company, but we of course own them. And what we do is we do nearshore recruiting. So we have offices in South America where we recruit talent for our clients here in the United States, typically at a 60% savings. And so what happens is they come to our office and work 45 days a week for that employer. And then we keep all the metrics. It's through our employer of record program, which means we pay their payroll, we pay their benefits, we take care of all the compliance on that end, where the benefit to the employer here is all they have to do is pay us a fee to provide that talent for them. So when we go out and source that talent, they're highly educated, they're bilingual, and they're willing to work 45 hours a week for typically, like I said, about a 60% savings to what they can find here.
That's nice. And so basically companies can save money and also hire outstanding talent more than what they could potentially afford in the United States. And so as a small startup, or they can reach out and make sure that they're still providing top tier service to their people with diverse people from around the world. And so what are the complications there if a company tried to do that without having an employer of record, or such as with the services that you provide? What kind of risks would they take on by doing that directly?
Yeah, well, they would take on all the risks of having to pay that person, out of country, right? So all the compliance pieces put in place, they would have to shoulder that to get that employee. Or if they wanted to bring them here, then that's even more complicated from that end. And
Yeah.
so from our side, we take that all off of their plate, so they don't even have to deal with that. And the other
Yeah.
nice thing from that end is we send them videos of the candidates. And so they get to screen those candidates, and then they just tell us, hey, I like this candidate, or I don't like this candidate, and here's why. And they don't have to pay for anything until we actually place a person with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty much free recruiting until we were able to find somebody that meets their needs.
Great. So I mean, it can create a lot of opportunity, so forth. That seems very compelling. So what are some of the stories that you would have to share with some of your clients around the world, as far as your clients in the United States that use your services? I mean, do you have? I imagine you have a couple success stories in mind that you could probably share with us.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one, right, is that we always hear is I think I told you yesterday, Sam, that the two reasons why people come to a PEO, right, is because of the compliance piece. A lot of times they really don't know what to do in those areas. And, as you expand to multi-states, there's even more rules and regulations that you have to adhere to. So the big success stories that I hear is, hey, I don't have to deal with that anymore, because from our end, we're already set up in every state. And so it's quick to market from a payroll, HR, work comp, benefits standpoint. So they don't have to register in each state they go to. They know as soon as they hire somebody, they'll automatically be set up in those states. And then the other nice thing that typically we hear is, hey, going back to your point, my benefits just aren't rich. I'm paying way too much, and I'm not able to attract the talent that I need because of my benefit package. I can't compete with that technology, 100-man technology company down the street, because they have all these robust benefits. So from our side, we're able to bring that solution to them, and they get to pick whatever plans they want to be able to attract those type of employees. And then they can structure it based on employer contribution, how they want to position that with their new hires and with their existing employees.
Right. Now, Sumit, I'd just love to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, as a being in India and so forth, I imagine there's a lot of opportunities for locals in your country to work with any country across the world. I mean, for instance, there's a lot of the gig work platforms and so forth. And so, would you what have you heard of the employee of record model of companies like this?
Not in the same format, Sam, but a common model here is for companies to have almost like an outsourcing model where they provide you with the staff who's all background checks done, they're on the payroll, and if they give you 10 employees, let's say, they bill you a certain fixed fee for it, and that's about it. So the compliance, the payroll, everything gets taken care of by them. But in effect, those people would then report to you. So they would, from a reporting standpoint, from a performance evaluation standpoint, they would be almost like employees, or almost like, in India, we'd call them contractors, but not the US definition of a contractor. But that's how it would work. So in certain ways, I can see that being similar to the PEO model, but definitely not an exact replica.
Right. And so I think that part of the advantages of the employer of record model, Alex, is that unlike a gig worker or even hiring a contract firm, can you customize the experience for some of those employees that you may be hiring through that employer of record model?
Yeah, and so from our standpoint, once again, our contract is month to month, right?
Okay.
So they pay month to month. They can get out at any time. However, we keep the KPIs on them, so they still we see them as, even though they're working, they're our employees. We still see them as they're working for that company, and we want them to be included in that company. So what's nice in South America is, time zone. They work that 45 hours a week on the same time zone that our clients in the United States are. And then going back to, you mentioned, customization, pretty much the employer decides, let's say they don't want them to work 45 hours a week. They can give them vacations, or they can give them breaks, or they can really structure it to suit their needs. So even though, those employees work a full year, right, without any vacations, but the employer can decide, hey, I don't need you for this week or that week, and give them some time off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty flexible from that end.
Perfect. So, in as far as the future, what the future holds in this particular industry, do you see any kind of new trends that are on the horizon that service organizations like you can help agile startups, to provide more benefits and solutions for their people? What's on the horizon in your industry, Alex?
Yeah, I just think so. There's a lot of consolidation, of course, a lot of companies buying each other. The technology is extremely competitive, right? Everybody's trying to get the best in class technology every year. So that's great news for our clients and the employers, right? Because they're going to get the best technology that's out there. And then from a benefits standpoint, in the United States, that changes all the time, right? The benefits changes depending on the rules and regulations. But I think the advantages to the employer is, once again, they don't have to deal with that. They let us handle whatever changes come into place so they can just run their business and not have those things. So you mentioned startups, right? Startups don't have time to put all of this in place. They all they want to do is grow, recruit, and run their companies. So by offloading and outsourcing a lot of those features, it just helps them get to where they need to be a lot faster.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I've been thinking about is that, the world is changing so quickly. If there's there's new trends that are coming up, and technologies such as artificial intelligence and things like this that are coming along. A lot of organizations are focused on upskilling their talent, so that they're prepared for the future. Now, if you in an employee of record model where like for instance, the different partners of Venture HR are employing these people that are working for our companies, how do we ensure that they're developed? Does the employer of record responsible for that development of those employees, or is that upon your clients to do? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. A
Yeah.
little bit of both, because they'll get training through us just by being employees of ours. But at the same time, if that employer has his own employees do training programs, he can include the employer of record hire and have them go through it as well. And then we can help set that up and make sure that gets taken care of. Yeah. And then Sam, you mentioned AI is huge. So every company's looking to see how they can implement that. We use that for job descriptions. We use that for, from our applicant tracking standpoint. So it's already being integrated with a lot of the software out there.
Great. So as we kind of wrap up the discussion here, Alex, we the main premise of our discussion is really how do we help the small emerging companies be successful and to do what they do best, focus on their clients, and to have an organization like you kind of help them with the administration of regulations and so forth. What do you want to have our listeners really walk away from this discussion? What do you want them to think top of mind?
Yeah, I just think there's other avenues out there that can help, right? It's not us. There's other players out there that can really help them get to where they need to be. And they don't need to do it all themselves. They don't need to do all the hiring themselves. They don't need to set up all these different silos from their standpoint. It just takes time out of their day, gives them headaches. There's other avenues where they can go and get that done for them so they can focus on that growth.
Great. Well, so Alex, for anybody that's listening that may want to learn more about PEOs, how they work, whether the services that are included in there, what would you recommend for them?
Yeah, I'd say definitely reach out. And what's nice is from our company, it's not all in a box, so it's not all or nothing. There's different avenues to go. We can do payroll only. We can do human resource only. We can do an ASO model where we handle all of that under their ID number. So there's plenty of different ways to go. It's not a one shop fits all. It's a lot of different solutions.
Good to know. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today, Alex. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Thanks, guys. Great meeting everybody.
Take care, Alex.
All right.
Alex.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the People Strategy Forum. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.